Hey guys, this is AZ192368, aka Tomoyo Sagi, coming at you live with a video update for the 11th of 2013, June of 2013. Today we're going to be talking about proposals for high-speed rail here in the Northeast Corridor, which stretches from Washington to Boston, with intermediate stops in a few major cities up and down the East Coast. I forgot to mention, such as Baltimore, Philadelphia, Wilmington, Delaware. That may be on the map too, in terms of stops. And Newark, New Jersey is part of it, and also New York City, and New Haven, Connecticut, Providence, and of course Boston, at the north end of the corridor. And there's other feeder or connector corridors, such as the Keystone Corridor, which starts actually in, I think it's Pittsburgh, all the way to Philadelphia. But for the electrified section, it's electrified, believe it or not, between Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and in Philadelphia, where the trains, such as Amtrak's Keystone service, which is a commuter train. I think they run hourly service between New York City and I think New York City to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with stops in Newark, New Jersey, Trenton, I think, right? Or not. Philadelphia, and there's a few other stops in between. And then actually, I think there's one or two stops in between Philadelphia and Harrisburg. You have the Empire Corridor, which is New York City to Albany and Schenectady, and all the way up to Canada, such as Toronto, in cities in Canada such as Toronto and Montreal. We have the Springfield branch, or the Springfield line, whatever you want to call it, that kind of shit. And we have the corridor south of Washington, which runs into Virginia and North Carolina, and all the way far beyond south of Charleston and Richmond. So, like I was saying, there's proposal. Some of it is real plans that are being implemented. It's just money's a concern at this point, such as with the chokeholds here in the corridor, such as excuse me for a sec. Excuse me. The major chokehold happens to be here in New York City, under the Hudson River, because the existing Hudson River tunnels, they're already at capacity. Yeah, they're maxed out or near capacity. And not just Amtrak uses those tunnels, but also New Jersey Transit. And for Penn Station, which they go into, is congested because you also have Long Island Railroad as well, which is, it makes it a little more difficult to operate trains in and out of that station. There's not enough track to support the growing ridership, and what Amtrak wants to do is lift the level of a substation, which is one of the things. Lift the level of a substation, power substation, for 25,000 volt. I think it's 25,000 or 12,000 volt AC catenary. And also for the third rail as well, 750 volt DC. But I think that uses the same or different substation. I'm not sure about how they have that set up, because certain things are kept secret or confidential due to security reasons and all that kind of stuff. And they want to build a new tunnel called Gateway under the Hudson River, with a new gateway from, well, I wouldn't say new gateway. Why the hell I said gateway? I mean new right-of-way from Newark, New Jersey, leading up to the tunnel. And new tunnel, new bridge to replace the drawbridge. That I'm trying to remember. It's some kind of portal bridge that opens right in the center. It opens up. It turns around instead of open up like this. And instead of opening up like this, like the Pelham Bay Bridge, I'm gonna get to that in a moment. It opens up like this, but that's a problem because speed is restricted and you have bottlenecks. So they want to replace it with a brand new shiny bridge, which is a higher level bridge, which can accommodate ship traffic, and it doesn't interfere with ship or train traffic. Because I think there's a few intermodal container hubs in that area, and they don't want that to interfere with it. So best to do is build a higher bridge, which can accommodate, like I said, ship traffic, and also can handle faster trains, and also you can increase frequency because you don't have to worry about your bridge breaking down or collapsing because of so much pounding from trains. And this should give new opportunities not just for Amtrak, but also for New Jersey Transit. And originally they were supposed to have their own dedicated tunnel, exclusively New Jersey Transit, but the project was canceled in October of 2010. It was called ARC. It was supposed to be a new terminal under Penn Station, connected to the existing Penn Station, like even though right under it with new tracks, right under it, longer platforms for longer trains, better lighting, better exits, better entrances, and everything. But Christie canceled it because supposedly it was cost overruns, and his state was afraid of paying the burden. But in fact, truth behold, but this is just speculation, but I think this is true. It's because he was afraid that his turnpike wouldn't make any money because people would be using the trains. Not just the turnpike, but also the gas tax. He wouldn't be making any more money from that. So because of competition from ARC, where you'll have more opportunities for more frequent train service, and also you get more people in, yet you'll have more seats, the trains are longer, it'll be more comfortable, be able to deal with more people. And Christie was afraid of losing that, so that's why he canceled the project. It wasn't because of cost overruns. That's what he tried to make it look like, but in fact, it was for his own greedy benefit and a few others. Yeah, at least Amtrak saved new Hudson River tunnel crossing, but my God, before this whole thing even happened, this huge issue, they knew they had to replace the tunnels years ago, and the first set of tunnels that were built under the Hudson in the East River was built by an engineer of the Pennsylvania Railroad. There's a book called Conquering Gotham. Conquering Gotham, and if you haven't heard of it, what it is about this engineer who designed and helped build the Hudson River tunnels of today, and they thought, oh, he's crazy, it ain't gonna be done, it's gonna be a boondoggle. Look at where it is today. Look where it is. Amtrak and New Jersey Transit is using those two tunnels. One of the busiest rail stations in the world, if not the busiest rail corridor in the world. Almost 600 trains use that tunnel a day, on a daily basis, and that number is expected to grow. Growing ridership, especially for Amtrak. You're saying 14 million. There's other rail corridors that carry way more people. If Amtrak wasn't poorly funded from the start and was given the investment they needed, maybe we would have a decent rail service. Because I do use that corridor once every few months or once every 2 months to travel between north and south. And how I start my journey is from New York Penn Station. The train, supposedly they say it averages 60, 80 miles an hour. When I ride the long distance trains, either I'm trying to remember, either Silver Meteor, Silver Star, or Pominetta, we fly around at we fly at 110 miles an hour max from New York to Washington D.C. But there is some sections that really needs improvement or replacement, such as the B and P tunnels in Baltimore, outside of Baltimore, Penn Station. What's very shocking is the tunnel, even though it's restricted to 30 miles an hour, when you have trains going almost 140, 150, supposedly, the thing, it was built right after the Civil War. It opened up right after the Civil War, and the tunnel was 140 years old. Plus 140, actually. My God, you still want to keep that thing around, yet there's a lot of people petitioning for the replacement of that tunnel. Forget repairs. We're talking about a complete replacement, because you restrict train movement, and that's a bottleneck. And there is two other proposals to divert train traffic. They're working with the City of Maryland, Amtrak, and which was set up by the FRA, the Northeast Corridor Future, which was an entity that was set up to oversee the modernization and future high-speed right-of-way for Amtrak's future high-speed plans. But what they want to do for now is get the existing Northeast Corridor up to speed, up to a good state of repair, where they could run trains at high speed, where they can start doing it immediately instead of having to wait 40 years. And you can open up the floodgates for high-speed rail. And the thing is, there's been constant blabber from a guy named Chairman Micah of the House Transportation Committee, John Micah or something like that. That guy, I don't know what's his problem. He wants to privatize Amtrak so it can speed up the process of high-speed rail. You're not going to do any better to privatize it. It's a failure, because if you try to do it on the one of the country's, if not the world's busiest rail corridors, it's going to end up miserably a failure. Look what happened in England. There was a fiasco last year over, actually 2 years ago, but they dropped it last year. Britain, as you know, most of their railroads are privately ran by companies, even though they're still publicly owned by a public entity called Network Rail, who is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep and upgrade of the tracks. The private train companies, they pay money, such as Virgin Rail, First Group, or First Great Western, Northern Line, and all kinds of different groups. There's so many different entities, it's not even funny, but it's ridiculous. It is a clusterfuck when it comes to London with their rail system. I mean, I can't understand it. It's so miserable. I mean, not miserable, but it's confusing. Because at one point, it used to be all ran by one entity, one company called British Rail, but they went bust in the 90s because they couldn't hold their shit together, because it's the same bickering that's going on right now in the States. And if you privatize the Northeast Corridor, the repercussions will be more riskier and more of a problem for the taxpayer than what it will create, because they had a procurement process to sell the franchise or leasing rights to to England's equivalent of the Northeast Corridor, the West Coast Main Line. which runs between London, that runs from London to Glasgow, with a few important areas such as Manchester Piccadilly, Leeds, Birmingham, and of course Glasgow in Scotland. They put out the bids out to other companies besides Virgin, because Virgin's franchise or contract was about to be up. They put it out to the first group. A French company was trying to get into it, part of SNCF. I'm trying to remember who. I don't remember the name, but I'm not sure. And shoot, I forgot. I think National Express or something like that. The first group, they won the bid. After a few months, they won the bid. And Virgin was dissatisfied of that decision because they were like, look, we started 15 years ago and we still have a long way to go and we want to finish the job we started. And what they did was they ordered an immediate private investigation into the matter. And I don't know how the hell Richard Branson does this. He's like the most amazing CEO, if not company president. I mean, guy in the world. Even though he probably gets laid like every week because of his swag, and I shouldn't say swag. Should I say his style and his coolness. He's different from the establishment. He's a little different. What he did, Sir Richard Branson, shocked me. He actually got private investigators to investigate the matter, and he managed to obtain documents about the first group's plans, and he looked into it, and they found it was very financially flawed in every way, because all these promises they were making was undeliverable or nearly impossible, and it would have cost the taxpayer in Britain more money than what it would cost, and it would bankrupt the line, just because they let a company. I was supposedly supposed to do more, fuck everything up, and once they find out that the transportation ministry over there, they realize they fucked up. The transport minister, I forgot his name, but he resigned, and then someone else took his spot, and they did an inquiry, they dropped the bid, they extended Virgin's contract, and right now what they're doing in Parliament with the program called rail franchising, or leasing, they want to extend the programs. Instead of 15 years, they want to make the leases 50 years, which makes more sense. I mean, I'm not going to lie, that actually makes a hell of a lot more sense than 15 years. 15 years, that's just a short hub and what you can do, what you can accomplish in half a century. I mean, I got to give Mr. Branson some respect, I really got to bulk it up to the guy, because you're running one of the biggest companies, if not one of the most well-known train operators in the world. At least can get his crap together. And moving on, I don't want to devote the whole video to Amtrak's privatization and all that, but I looked into this. Other countries, they privatized their railroads, and they found out they fucked up miserably, so they renationalized it. And I don't know why they want to freaking privatize Amtrak. All they care about is that money. They don't care about passenger convenience or comfort, and especially the employees, because their butts are on the line if it becomes privatized, because their jobs, their livelihoods can be in jeopardy, because depending on a private operator, they can screw things up. I mean, I could see a public-private partnership, but privatizing Amtrak is ridiculous. It's impossible. The corridor, the system itself is too big. The rail system itself is too big. It's impossible, especially here in the Northeast, where we have almost
2,000, 3,000 trains a day. And, yeah, I mean, with the equipment Amtrak has, at least they can hold their shit together and try to make service better. I wish the fares weren't so high, so I can use it to get certain places at a lower cost, if not faster, instead of like $300 round trip. Be cut down to at least $100. I mean, $100 between here and Maryland. Almost $100, which I'll be using the train to go down to Oticon, by the way. I prefer that than any of the bus modes. I mean, any of the buses, because shit can happen. So, I'd rather take the train. Faster. I wouldn't say cheaper, but it's faster. At least guarantees I get there on time. Hopefully. But what I was saying about the Hudson River tunnels earlier, after Hurricane Sandy, when they did the damage assessment, parts of the corridor was damaged by storm surge and Sandy and all kinds of stuff. And I'm glad that they suspended train service during the storm just for safety reasons. But after Sandy, they had to pump out a heck of a lot of water, both not just from the Hudson River, but East River tunnels, and they had to replace the single-lane system, especially in the East River. Terrible. The A line was paralyzed for a bit as well. Actually, every subway line across between Brooklyn, almost every subway line between Brooklyn and Manhattan was paralyzed due to either power or the tunnels were flooded. But they're going to shut down the R line between Brooklyn and Manhattan for a year starting in August and stretching all the way into December of 2014 because they're doing some kind of rebuilding job. It's like building the tunnel from scratch. So it's gonna put a hell of a lot of pressure on the A and C line and the F that I use on a daily basis. But luckily, I would take the A train all the way to freaking Manhattan. I take it to either, I think I take it to, actually, I take it to Broadway Junction. Broadway Junction. I get the L or J or Z. But I don't like the idea of overcrowding the F, A, and C just because you have to do work. Well, I hope they add on extra service. If they do, we're going to have a clusterphobe at J Street. Oh, God. Clusterphobe at J Street Metro Tech. You better avoid it at all costs. But, dude, seriously, J Street and a few other stations in the system is already a clusterphobe during rush hour. And you add more people to the mix, that's even worse. So I hope they get that done as soon as possible, but correctly, where it doesn't break down. I think you're supposed to waterproof the tunnel too. But anyways, like I was saying about the Northeast Corridor, what they want to do is, besides eliminate bottlenecks and improve the infrastructure, they want to improve the track and signaling system, and the power supply needs modernization because, God, it acts up a lot. And the trains that they use, Amtrak, the ones that they use when they acquired the Estella equipment, my God, when they first started out, they had so many mechanical problems. It's not even funny. They made the body so wide from the demonstration trains that they had that were tilting that they had to put metal pins in the tilting mechanism where the train can't tilt at all. I mean, come on. That's a waste of $20 million. No. This is more than $20 million. I don't remember how much they spent. They spent about $5 or $6 billion on the equipment alone, which is 20 train sets. They were going to originally add capacity by lengthening the train sets by having more cars built by the manufacturers, and then buy new train sets, brand new train sets, and add more to for the capacity reason and the speed. But they abandoned it at the last. Well, not at the last possible minute, but they just abandoned it because they realized it wasn't very cost effective. It was too expensive. what they're trying to do now is Joseph Boardman. He wants the procurement of the new equipment to be in place before he's 70. Right now he's about 64. Yeah, I think he's about 64 or 65. He wants the contract and the procurement of the equipment done before he's 70, because that's when he's supposed to retire. Joseph Boardman. I have to say, you got some real cojones, Mr. Boardman. And here's one piece of good news. Here in the corridor, we're getting new locomotives. They're called Class ACS 64s, built by Siemens. I've seen those locomotives. My God, they're awesome. They look great. They look like something out of Germany or Europe. Actually, it is. It's based on a very successful platform that's been used in Europe. But some people say, oh, it's ugly, and but it gets the job done. I mean, I don't care. Especially the Amtrak paint scheme. Woo! That looks freaking super fly, man. They were all built stateside, using American components, well, American-made components, and creating domestic jobs. And once that goes well, I think they've built 3 so far. 3 down, 72 to go. What they did was, 2 are being sent to Pueblo, Colorado's Transportation Institute for testing and see if they work well, and it will collect all kinds of data and all that stuff. And one's being sent here to the Northeast Corridor for testing this summer, and will be put into full revenue service by the fall. It's the first step in improvements to the corridor and Amtrak's service. And I found out about those locomotives. It's really interesting. They're capable of pulling 14-car, I think they're 18, I think either 18 or 14-car long trains at a speed of, actually 14-car, full 14-car trains at a speed of 125 miles an hour. They're supposed to originally designed for 148, but due to restrictions here in the corridor and a bunch of other safety issues at speed, they restricted it to 125. But that's still fast. But I'm glad when they upgraded. I'm glad when they upgraded the full specs where you can run full service at full speed. The other problem is in Connecticut, between New Rochelle and New Haven. The catenary and the tracks are in terrible shape. They're in the process of being modernized, upgraded, or modernized at this point. And I have to say, it's not so bad that they're doing all this work right now at this point, which needs to be done anyhow. But they did it back in the 90s, but due to funding issues, they had to do it in phases. Slow as hell. I mean, come on, seriously. And even the Acela won't be able to operate at full speed in Connecticut because of concerns of the trains tilting and smacking into other trains. They made the bodies too freaking wide. If they went with the X2000 or the ICE, wouldn't have these problems. Or at least make the body wide as that. Not so freaking wide where you can't use the tilting mechanism for nothing. You can't use it. Waste of money. Waste of money and a waste of time. I mean, it's ridiculous. Mostly a waste of money. Good, terrible waste. But once they get everything in order and hopefully they fix this crap sooner rather than later, hopefully on the next generation high-speed trains they don't screw up like they did with the Acela. The Acela from the get-go, it had major problems where for about a year, half a year, they were taken out of service, and they had to reactivate the Metro liner for much longer than what they anticipated that service. And I think they used cap cars on some trains where they can turn the trains around very quickly in a very quick fashion, so that they can leave in, leave out by a certain time, and they can stay their schedule. And they actually extended the Metroliner schedule up to Boston, it turns out. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Which was supposed to be replaced by the Acela. And that train set, oh my god, those trains had problems. The replacement parts and all kinds of crap was giving everyone issues. Lots of them. So, anyways, I'm glad that's over, but I still don't like that it was a fiasco. Huge fiasco for Amtrak. And that's what kind of made it lost confidence, but a lot of people try to kill off the company anyhow. Yeah, they always bring up during these transportation chair meetings is privatize Amtrak. They think if they do that, they can hurry up with the improvements. If we had private investment pumped into Amtrak like crazy, maybe we would have a better rail system. Maybe we would already have the high-speed rail corridor about 5 years ago. Actually, a few years ago we would have had it. But shit didn't fall through. Right now it's being worked out. They're saying 40 years. Micah's like, oh, I want this to... Well, it should be done at least in 10 years. I want to see this while I'm still alive, not when I'm pushing up daisies. Well, if you weren't saying you were going to privatize Amtrak, maybe we wouldn't have this. Maybe we would have investment already in the corridor. I mean, come on. In Europe, in Asia, not just public investment, also private investment played a role because they guaranteed securities that once they put money, we guarantee once you put money into this project, we'll back you. Even if something goes tits up, we'll back you up. That's what keep the private investors confident, and that's what get the project done. And the procurement of the train sets, I still can't get over that. I hope they don't screw that up. So, this is AZ19 with another video, but this time this was about transportation and future improvements and all kinds of stuff that could happen. So, this is Osagi out.